You know that moment when your entire world shifts on its axis? When everything you thought you knew about your life turns out to be a carefully constructed lie? Yeah. Well, mine happened in a fucking mall jewelry store on a Saturday afternoon, and it started with the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen who wasn't my wife. Let me back up. Thursday evening, my wife Samantha announced she was going on a girls' trip this weekend. Nothing unusual there. She'd been doing these little getaways with her friend group every few months for the past year. I said, "Have fun," like the dutiful husband I thought I was. Friday morning, she packed her bags with the efficiency of a woman who'd done this dance before, kissed me goodbye with lips that tasted like mint and deception, said, "Back Monday," and left our suburban Minneapolis home with a cheerfulness that should have been my first red flag. I'm David Mitchell, 38 years old, and I run a small but successful tech consulting firm from my home office. Nothing glamorous. I help local businesses upgrade their IT systems and pretend to care about their problems with email servers. It pays the bills and keeps Samantha in her designer yoga pants and organic smoothies. Saturday afternoon, I decided to venture out into the world of the living. Working from home has its perks, but sometimes you need to remember what other humans look like. I drove to the Galleria, that temple of American consumerism, where dreams go to die and credit cards go to max out. I was walking past Tiffany & Co., wondering who the hell spends $3,000 on a bracelet, when I saw her. Ashley Morrison, Samantha's friend, the one who always made me feel like I was being undressed with her eyes whenever she came over for their wine nights. Stunning doesn't begin to cover it. 5'7", auburn hair that caught light like spun copper, and a smile that could make a priest reconsider his vows. I waved at her, and she turned, surprised. "Hey, David, what are you doing here?" "Shopping," I replied, gesturing vaguely at the mall around us. "What about you?" We made small talk for a minute. The weather, the crowds, the usual bullshit people say when they're filling air with words. Then my brain caught up with the situation. "Wait," I said, confusion creeping into my voice. "Aren't you on the trip with my wife?" Ashley's face shifted. The friendly mask slipped for just a second, replaced by something I couldn't quite read. Then she smirked. Not smiled, smirked, and that expression sent a chill down my spine. "What trip?" she asked, her voice carrying a note of genuine amusement. I explained about the girls' weekend, how I thought she was going, how Samantha had been planning it for weeks. Ashley listened with the patience of someone watching a particularly slow child work through a math problem. When I finished, she laughed. Not a cruel laugh, but not kind either. "I wasn't invited," she said casually. Then, like she was commenting on the weather, she added, "She's with her other guy." The world stopped. I swear to God, everything just froze for a moment. The mall noise faded to a dull buzz, and all I could hear was my own heartbeat hammering in my ears. "What?" The word came out as barely a whisper. Ashley continued, matter of fact as a news anchor. "Your wife's been seeing someone. Everyone knows but you, apparently." My mouth felt dry as sand. "Who?" Ashley shrugged, like we were discussing lunch plans. "Some guy from her gym, Chad something, built like a brick shithouse and about as smart as one." She explained it all with the casual efficiency of someone who'd been waiting for this moment. The girls' trips that weren't girls' trips. The lies Samantha had been telling for months. How Ashley and the others had been covering for her, providing alibis and fake stories. "I stopped covering for her," Ashley said, and I understood why she wasn't invited this time. I stood there, processing the betrayal. My wife, the woman I'd loved for 8 years, married for 6, had been playing me like a fucking fiddle. Every kiss goodbye, every love you too text, every concerned question about my day had been delivered by an actress worthy of an Oscar. Ashley watched me process this information, and I saw something shift in her expression. Something predatory, but not in a cruel way. More like a cat that had spotted a wounded bird. She touched my arm gently, her fingers warm through my shirt. "Forget her," she said, her voice softer now. Then, bold as brass, she added, "Dinner with me tonight?" I stared at her, stunned by the forward offer. Here I was, still reeling from learning my wife was a cheating liar, and her friend was asking me out. Ashley continued, stepping closer. "I've always thought you deserved better." Her smile was warm, genuine, nothing like that calculating smirk from before. "Let me show you." I should have said no. Should have gone home, called Samantha, demanded the truth. Should have been the bigger person, the mature adult who handles these things properly. Instead, with my wife's lies burning in my chest like acid, I said, "Okay." Ashley lit up like Christmas morning. "Pick me up at 7, she said, already pulling out her phone. "I'll text you my address." We exchanged numbers, and I drove home in a daze. The house felt different somehow, bigger, emptier, like a stage set waiting for actors who would never show up. I found myself looking at everything with new eyes. The wedding photos on the mantel, the world's best wife mug Samantha used every morning, the little notes she left on the bathroom mirror. All of it felt like props in an elaborate lie. I checked Samantha's location sharing, something we'd set up for safety, though apparently only one of us had been honest about our whereabouts. Her little blue dot showed her at the Grand View Resort, 3 hours north. I called the resort's front desk. "Hi, I'm checking on a reservation for Samantha Mitchell?" "One moment, please." Keyboard clicking. "Yes, I see that reservation. Checking out Monday morning." "Great, thanks. How many guests are registered for that room?" "2 guests, sir. They booked our couple's suite." I thanked them and hung up. Couple's suite. The words echoed in my head like a death knell. I spent the next 2 hours getting ready for dinner, moving through the motions like a man preparing for his own execution. Shower, shave, cologne, the works. If I was going to blow up my marriage, I was going to look good doing it. Ashley's apartment was in one of those trendy downtown buildings where young professionals went to pretend they were living in a sitcom. All exposed brick and industrial lighting, the kind of place that charged $3,000 a month for the privilege of hearing your neighbors sneeze. When she opened the door, I nearly forgot how to breathe. She wore a red dress that should have been illegal in 12 states. Not slutty. Ashley had too much class for that. But the kind of elegant that made you understand why men started wars over women. Her auburn hair was down, framing her face in soft waves, and she'd done something with her makeup that made her green eyes look like emeralds. "You clean up nice, Mitchell," she said, giving me an appreciative once-over. "You're not so bad yourself, Morrison." We went to Manny's Steakhouse, one of those old-school places where the steaks cost more than most people's car payments, and the waiters treat you like visiting royalty. Ashley ordered wine with the confidence of someone who actually knew what she was talking about, not like Samantha, who just picked whatever had the prettiest label. The conversation flowed easier than it had any right to. We talked about everything and nothing: books, movies, travel, the weird quirks of living in Minneapolis. Ashley was funny, really funny, with a sharp wit that kept me laughing despite the circumstances. "I warned her she was being stupid," Ashley said over dessert, referring to Samantha for the first time since we'd sat down. "You're a good man, David. She took you for granted." "Did she?" I asked. "Or did I just make it too easy?" Ashley reached across the table and touched my hand. Her fingers were warm, soft, real in a way that made everything else feel like a dream. "Her loss is my gain," she said, and the way she looked at me made my chest tight. Dinner became drinks at the bar. Drinks became more conversation, more laughter, more of Ashley's hand finding excuses to touch mine. When we finally left the restaurant, the Minneapolis night air was crisp with the promise of autumn. In the parking lot, Ashley turned to face me. We were standing close enough that I could smell her perfume, something floral and expensive that was nothing like the vanilla body spray Samantha favored. "David," she said, and then she kissed me. It wasn't the desperate, angry kiss of revenge. It was soft, sweet, questioning, like she was asking permission for something we both wanted but weren't sure we should take. I answered by kissing her back. The drive to my house was a blur of anticipation and guilt, and something else I couldn't quite name. Ashley sat in the passenger seat of my Audi, her hand resting on my thigh, humming along to whatever song was playing on the radio. "Are you sure about this?" I asked as we pulled into my driveway. She turned to look at me, her expression serious for the first time all evening. "Are you?" I thought about Samantha, probably tangled up in hotel sheets with her gym rat boyfriend. I thought about the lies, the fake girls' trips, the months of deception. I thought about the couple's suite and the casual way Ashley had said, "Everyone knows but you." "Yeah," I said, "I'm sure." My house felt different with Ashley in it. She moved through the space like she belonged there, touching things with casual familiarity, making herself at home in a way that should have felt wrong but didn't. We ended up in my bedroom, mine and Samantha's bedroom, and if there was poetry in the justice of it, I was too far gone to appreciate it. Ashley was everything Samantha wasn't: present, engaged, enthusiastic. She made little sounds of pleasure that my wife had never made, touched me like she actually wanted to be there instead of enduring some marital obligation. Afterwards, we lay tangled in sheets that still smelled like Samantha's lavender fabric softener, and Ashley traced patterns on my chest with her fingertip. "No regrets?" she asked. "Ask me tomorrow," I said, but I already knew the answer. I woke up to the smell of coffee and bacon. For a confused moment, I thought Samantha had come home early. Then I remembered, and the events of the previous day came flooding back with the force of a tsunami. Ashley was in my kitchen, wearing one of my old college t-shirts and nothing else, making breakfast like she'd been doing it for years. Her legs were bare, and she was humming the same song from the car. "Good morning, handsome," she said when she saw me. "Hope you like your eggs over easy." My phone buzzed. Text from Samantha. "Having such a great weekend. Hope you're not too bored without me. Love you." The casual cruelty of it took my breath away. She was literally in bed with another man, and she was texting me about having a great weekend. Ashley saw me reading the message and laughed. "Let her think she's winning," she said, flipping eggs with professional efficiency. "Makes it more fun when she finds out she's not." I texted back, "Having a good weekend too. Enjoying the quiet." It wasn't technically a lie. We spent Sunday together too. Ashley didn't seem to have anywhere else to be, and I sure as hell wasn't going to ask her to leave. We watched movies, ordered Chinese food, made love again in the afternoon sunlight streaming through my bedroom windows. She posted a few subtle photos on Instagram, her coffee mug next to mine, her feet propped up on my couch, nothing obvious but enough that anyone paying attention would notice. Samantha's other friends saw them. I could tell because my phone started buzzing with notifications as people liked and commented. "You're evil," I told Ashley as she crafted another carefully innocent post. "You say that like it's a bad thing," she replied, snuggling closer to me on the couch. Monday morning came too soon. Ashley was getting dressed when my phone rang. "Samantha." I let it go to voicemail, then listened to the message. "Hey babe, checking out early. Should be home by lunch, can't wait to see you." "She's coming home," I told Ashley. Ashley smiled, the same predatory expression I'd seen at the mall. Good. I was wondering when the fun would really start. Samantha walked through our front door at 11:47 a.m., rolling her weekend bag behind her and carrying the kind of post-vacation glow that comes from 3 days of guilt-free fucking. She was humming something under her breath, probably the same song Chad had been playing while he bent her over their couple's sweet bed. She made it exactly 4 steps into the house before she stopped. Ashley's red heels were sitting by the front door, right where she'd kicked them off Saturday night. Expensive heels, the kind that cost more than most people's rent, sitting there like a declaration of war. I heard Samantha's sharp intake of breath from the kitchen, where Ashley and I were finishing our coffee. Ashley had put her dress back on, but left it unzipped, and she was wearing that same smirk that had started this whole thing. "Showtime," Ashley murmured, and we listened to Samantha's footsteps as she climbed the stairs to our bedroom. The scream that followed could have shattered glass. "What the fuck?" Ashley and I were still in bed. My bed, Samantha's bed, our bed that wasn't really ours anymore. I was propped up against the headboard, Ashley curled against my side like a cat in a sunbeam. We looked like a couple, comfortable and intimate and completely unrepentant. Samantha stood in the doorway, her face cycling through emotions faster than a slot machine. Shock, rage, betrayal, confusion, the whole spectrum of human feeling compressed into about 3 seconds. "Could ask you the same thing," I said, my voice calm as a lake before a storm. "This is different," Samantha sputtered, like she'd been practicing that line. I laughed. Actually laughed. "How?" Ashley chose that moment to stretch, deliberately drawing attention to herself. "Your girl's trip was really good, apparently," she said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. Samantha's eyes darted between us, and I watched her put the pieces together. Ashley's absence from the trip, Ashley's presence in our bed, the realization that her carefully constructed lies had fallen apart. "You told him," Samantha said, her voice flat. "Someone had to," Ashley replied. "You certainly weren't going to." What followed was the kind of fight that neighbors call the police about. Samantha screamed about betrayal and trust, and how could we do this to her? Ashley remained calm, occasionally dropping little truth bombs that made Samantha's voice climb another octave. I mostly stayed quiet, watching my marriage implode with the detached fascination of someone watching a building demolition. "How long?" Samantha finally asked, her voice hoarse from screaming. "How long what?" I replied. "How long have you been fucking my friend?" "Since Saturday," I said, "right after I found out about Chad." Samantha flinched like I'd slapped her. Hearing his name out loud made it real in a way that all her denials couldn't fix. "It's not what you think," she said, the classic cheater's refrain. "It's exactly what I think," I said. "You've been lying to me for months, using your friends as cover while you fuck around with some muscle-bound moron from your gym." "His name is Chad," Samantha said, then immediately realized how that sounded. Ashley burst out laughing. "Oh, honey, that just made it worse." The fight continued for another hour, going in circles like a dog chasing its tail. Samantha tried to flip the script, make me the villain for sleeping with Ashley. Ashley kept dropping details about Samantha's lies that made it impossible for her to maintain any moral high ground. I just sat there, watching the woman I'd loved reveal herself to be a stranger. Finally, Samantha played her last card. "I want her out of this house, now." "No," I said, "this is my house too." "Is it? Because you haven't been living here, you've been living a lie." I got out of bed, pulled on my jeans, and looked my wife in the eye. "Ashley stays. You can leave if you don't like it." Samantha's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. "You can't be serious." "Dead serious. Ashley's been more honest with me in 3 days than you've been in 3 months. She's using you. Can't you see that?" I looked at Ashley, still lounging in my bed like a Renaissance painting come to life, and shrugged. "Maybe. But at least she's honest about it." Samantha stormed out, slamming doors and muttering threats. She'd be back. Her stuff was here, her life was here, her carefully constructed image as the perfect suburban wife was here. But for now, the house was quiet again. "That went well," Ashley said. "You enjoyed that way too much," I told her. "Guilty as charged." She patted the bed beside her. "Come back here. I'm not done with you yet." Over the next few days, I learned something important about revenge. It's addictive. Like cocaine or gambling or really good pizza, once you get a taste, you want more. Samantha had moved into our guest bedroom, claiming she needed space to think. What she really needed was time to figure out how to spin this situation to her advantage. She'd built her whole identity around being the wronged party in every situation, and having her own infidelity exposed while catching her husband in bed with her best friend had seriously damaged her victim narrative. Ashley, meanwhile, had essentially moved in. She kept clothes in my closet, toiletries in my bathroom, and coffee in my kitchen. If Samantha found this arrangement uncomfortable, she was welcome to find somewhere else to stay. "You're being cruel," Samantha said over breakfast Wednesday morning. Ashley was sitting at the kitchen island in one of my shirts, scrolling through her phone while eating cereal. The domestic intimacy of it was clearly driving Samantha insane. "I'm being honest," I replied. "Try it sometime." Samantha's phone buzzed. Text message. I watched her face as she read it, saw the little smile she tried to hide. Chad, probably, wondering when they could see each other again. "Texting your boyfriend?" I asked. "He's not my boyfriend." "Right. He's just the guy you've been fucking behind my husband's back for months. Totally different thing." Ashley looked up from her phone. "Oh, speaking of Chad, David, you should see this." She turned her phone toward me. Instagram story from Chad's account, a shirtless gym selfie with the caption, "Missing my girl." "Subtle," I said. Samantha went pale. "How do you have his Instagram?" "I looked him up," Ashley said with a shrug. "Chad Morrison, personal trainer at Elite Fitness. 29 years old, drives a BMW he can't afford, and has the grammar skills of a concussed third grader." She scrolled through his feed, providing commentary like a nature documentary narrator. "Oh, look, here's one from last Friday. Weekend getaway with my favorite person." "That's you, right, Sam? You're his favorite person?" "Stop," Samantha whispered. "And here's a cute one from your anniversary." "Oh, wait, that's not your anniversary with David, that's your anniversary with Chad." 6 months, apparently. Congratulations." I felt something cold settle in my stomach. 6 months. While I'd been working my ass off to grow my business, planning our future, Samantha had been building a whole other life with someone else. 6 months, I said. Samantha couldn't meet my eyes. "David, I can explain." 6 fucking months, Samantha. "It wasn't supposed to happen." "What wasn't supposed to happen? Meeting him, talking to him, sucking his dick? At what point exactly did you lose control of the situation?" Ashley was watching this exchange with the fascination of someone witnessing a particularly dramatic car crash. "Should I leave you two alone?" "No," I said. "Stay. I want a witness for this." What followed was the most honest conversation Samantha and I had ever had, which isn't saying much considering our relationship had apparently been built on lies. She told me about meeting Chad at the gym, how he'd made her feel young and exciting and desired, how the attention had been intoxicating, how one thing had led to another. "I never meant for it to go this far," she said, tears streaming down her face. "But it did go this far, 6 months far, weekend getaway far, couples suite far. I love you, David. I've always loved you." "No," I said. "You loved the idea of me, the security, the stability, the nice house in the nice neighborhood, but you didn't love me enough to keep your legs closed." It was cruel, but it was also true. Samantha flinched like I'd hit her. "What do you want from me?" she asked. "What can I do to fix this?" I looked at her, really looked at her. The woman I'd married, the woman I'd planned to grow old with. She was beautiful, successful, intelligent. She was also a liar and a cheat who'd spent 6 months making me look like a fool. "I want you to leave," I said. "Pack your stuff and go stay with Chad. Or your sister. Or a hotel. I don't care where, just get out of my house." "Our house," she corrected automatically. "My house. My name on the mortgage. My money for the down payment. You want half of it? Call your lawyer." Samantha's tears dried up real quick when money entered the conversation. You can't just kick me out. Watch me. That afternoon, while Samantha was at work trying to salvage what was left of her professional reputation, Ashley and I went shopping. Not for groceries or clothes, but for information. Elite Fitness was one of those upscale gyms where people went to see and be seen as much as to work out. All chrome and mirrors and motivational posters about crushing your goals. Chad was easy to spot. 6'2", blonde, muscles on top of muscles, and the kind of artificial tan that screamed, "I take myself very seriously." He was with a client, some middle-aged woman who was clearly more interested in his biceps than his training advice. I watched him work, noting the way he touched her arm to correct her form, the way he leaned in close to explain the exercise. This guy was a predator, and my wife had been his prey. "That's him?" Ashley asked. "That's him." Jesus, Sam really has a type, doesn't she? Big, dumb, and pretty. We didn't approach him. Not yet. This was reconnaissance, gathering intelligence for the war I was planning. Because make no mistake, this was war. Samantha and Chad had declared it the moment they decided to make me look like a fool. Now it was time to return the favor. That evening, Samantha came home to find her clothes packed in suitcases by the front door. "What's this?" she asked. "Your stuff. You're leaving." "David, please. Can't we talk about this? Can't we try counseling or—" "No. You made your choice 6 months ago. Now I'm making mine." She looked around the house like she was seeing it for the first time. The photos of us together, the furniture we'd picked out, the life we'd built. All of it was about to become past tense. "Where am I supposed to go?" "That's not my problem anymore." Ashley appeared in the doorway, still wearing my shirt, still looking like she belonged here. "Your boyfriend has a nice apartment," she suggested helpfully. "I'm sure he wouldn't mind a roommate." Samantha's face crumpled. "Ashley, please. You're supposed to be my friend." "I was your friend. I covered for your lies. I made excuses for your behavior. I enabled your affair. But I'm done being complicit in your bullshit." "Why are you doing this?" Ashley walked over to me, slipped her arm around my waist, and looked Samantha dead in the eye. "Because I'm tired of watching you take good things for granted." Samantha left that night, dragging her suitcases behind her like a refugee from her own bad choices. She'd be back, for more clothes, for her car, for the inevitable lawyers' meetings. But for now, the house was ours. "Feel better?" Ashley asked as we watched Samantha's taillights disappear down the street. "Getting there," I said. But I wasn't done. Not even close. The thing about small suburban communities is that everyone knows everyone else's business. It's like living in a fishbowl where the fish all have smartphones and social media accounts. Samantha had built her reputation on being the perfect wife, the successful career woman, the friend you could count on. That reputation was about to take a beating. It started small. Ashley posted a photo of us at dinner with the caption, "Sometimes the best things come from unexpected places." Innocent enough, but her friends knew she'd been covering for Samantha's affair. They could read between the lines. Then there was the gym incident. I'd signed up for a membership at Elite Fitness. Purely for research purposes, you understand. Chad was working with the same middle-aged client when I walked in, and I made sure to introduce myself. "Excuse me," I said, approaching them during a break. "Are you Chad Morrison?" He turned, flashing the kind of practiced smile that probably worked on most women. "That's me. You looking for a trainer?" "Actually, I wanted to thank you." His smile faltered. "Thank me. For fucking my wife. Really opened my eyes to what kind of person she is." The woman Chad was training gasped. Chad's face went through several interesting color changes, settling on a shade of red that clashed badly with his fake tan. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said. "Sure you do. Samantha Mitchell? Blonde, about 5'6", lies about girls' trips so she can spend weekends in hotel rooms with you?" By now we had an audience. The gym had gone quiet, everyone pretending to exercise while actually listening to the drama unfold. Look, man, I think there's been some kind of misunderstanding. No misunderstanding. She told me all about it. 6 months, right? That's a pretty good run. Most affairs burn out after a few weeks. Chad looked around desperately, realizing that his professional reputation was circling the drain. Can we talk about this somewhere private? Why? Ashamed of something? I left him standing there, red-faced and stammering, while his client gathered her things and walked away. Word would spread. In a community like ours, it always did. But that was just the appetizer. The main course came at the Hendersons' anniversary party. The Hendersons were one of those couples who'd been married for 30 years and felt the need to celebrate every milestone with elaborate parties. This one was being held at the country club, with half the neighborhood in attendance, including Samantha and Chad, who'd apparently decided to make their relationship public. I arrived with Ashley on my arm, both of us dressed to kill. Ashley wore a black dress that should have come with a warning label, and I'd put on my best suit. We looked like a power couple, confident and united. Samantha was across the room, standing next to Chad like she was showing off a prize bull. She'd seen us come in, and the look on her face was priceless. Part panic, part rage, part humiliation. "Ready for this?" Ashley asked. "Let's do it." We worked the room like politicians, greeting friends and neighbors, accepting congratulations on our new relationship with gracious smiles. The story we told was simple. Samantha had been cheating, Ashley had told me the truth, and we'd found comfort in each other. It wasn't technically a lie. But the real show started when Tom Henderson asked me to say a few words about marriage. I stood up, tapped my champagne glass with a knife, and waited for the room to quiet down. Samantha was staring at me with the kind of horrified fascination usually reserved for natural disasters. "Thank you, Tom. I have to say, it's inspiring to see a couple who's been together for 30 years. In a world where commitment seems to be going out of style, it's refreshing to meet people who understand what marriage really means." Polite applause. I waited for it to die down. Now, I'm not going to stand here and pretend I'm an expert on marriage. My own recently ended when I discovered my wife had been having an affair for 6 months. The room went dead silent. You could have heard a pin drop in the next county. But you know what? I'm grateful. Because her betrayal led me to someone who actually knows how to be honest. Someone who values loyalty. Someone who doesn't need to sneak around and lie to feel good about herself. I raised my glass toward Ashley, who was watching me with a mixture of admiration and concern. So here's to the Hendersons, and to 30 years of actual commitment. And here's to learning that sometimes the worst thing that happens to you turns out to be the best thing that could have happened. I drained my champagne while the room sat in stunned silence. Samantha had gone white as a sheet. Chad looked like he wanted to crawl under a table and die. The aftermath was everything I'd hoped for. People approached us all evening, some offering sympathy, others fishing for details, all of them now aware that Samantha Mitchell was a cheating wife, and Chad Morrison was a homewrecker. "You're insane," Samantha hissed when she cornered me by the bar later that evening. "I'm honest. You should try it. You just humiliated me in front of everyone we know." "No, you humiliated yourself. I just made sure everyone knew about it." Chad appeared at her shoulder, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else on Earth. "Maybe we should go," he suggested. "Good idea," I said. "I hear there's a nice hotel about 3 hours north. They have a couple's suite." Chad flinched like I'd hit him. They left shortly after, Samantha's carefully constructed social life in ruins behind them. "That was brutal," Ashley said as we watched them go. "That was justice." But I still wasn't done. The divorce proceedings were a bloodbath. Samantha hired a lawyer who specialized in taking cheating husbands to the cleaners, apparently not realizing that her own affair had shifted the power dynamic considerably. My lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman named Patricia Wong, had a field day with the evidence Ashley and I had gathered. Text messages, hotel receipts, social media posts, credit card records showing expensive dinners and gifts that Samantha had claimed were for work functions. The paper trail of a 6-month affair, documented in excruciating detail. "Your client committed adultery," Patricia told Samantha's lawyer during one particularly heated meeting. "In this state, that affects the division of assets." Samantha's lawyer, a slick-haired man named Bradley something, tried to argue that my relationship with Ashley constituted adultery as well. Patricia shut that down quickly. "My client's relationship began after he discovered his wife's infidelity. He was the wronged party, not the perpetrator." It was beautiful to watch. Samantha had walked into this divorce expecting to take me for half of everything. Instead, she was going to be lucky to walk away with her car and her 401k. But the real satisfaction came from watching her life fall apart in other ways. Her job at the marketing firm became untenable after word of the affair spread. Turns out, sleeping with your personal trainer while lying to your husband doesn't project the kind of professional image corporate clients appreciate. She mutually agreed to part ways with the company, which is corporate speak for, "You're fired, but we're being nice about it." Her friend group imploded. Ashley's defection had started a chain reaction, with other women stepping forward to share their own stories of covering for Samantha's lies. Apparently, I wasn't the only one who'd been kept in the dark. Even her relationship with Chad started showing cracks. It's one thing to be someone's exciting secret affair. It's another thing entirely to be their only option after they've burned every other bridge in their life. Chad had signed up to be a side piece, not a life partner. The pressure was getting to him. I watched all of this unfold with the detached interest of someone observing a particularly dramatic soap opera. Samantha had made her choices. Now she was living with the consequences. The final blow came at the divorce hearing itself. Samantha showed up looking like she'd aged 5 years in 6 months. The stress of losing her job, her friends, and her marriage had taken its toll. She was still beautiful, but there was a brittleness to her now, like glass that had been cracked but not yet shattered. Chad wasn't with her. According to Ashley's sources, and Ashley had excellent sources, he'd broken up with her the week before. Something about needing space and not being ready for this level of commitment. Apparently, being publicly identified as a homewrecker had damaged his reputation enough that other potential clients, girlfriends, were staying away. The hearing itself was a formality. Patricia had done her job well, and Samantha's lawyer had clearly advised her to take whatever deal was on the table rather than risk a trial that would air even more dirty laundry. I kept the house. I kept my business. I kept my retirement accounts. Samantha got her car, her personal belongings, and a settlement that was generous enough to keep her from being homeless, but small enough to ensure she'd have to find a job soon. "Any final words for your client?" the judge asked Samantha's lawyer. Bradley whispered something in Samantha's ear. She shook her head, then looked directly at me for the first time since the proceedings began. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice barely audible. I nodded. "I know you are." And I did know. Samantha was sorry. Sorry she'd been caught. Sorry her affair had blown up in her face. Sorry her carefully planned life had fallen apart. But she wasn't sorry for the lying, the cheating, the months of making me look like a fool. She was just sorry it hadn't worked out better for her. Outside the courthouse, Ashley was waiting for me. She'd taken the day off work to be there, even though she didn't need to be. That meant something. "How do you feel?" she asked as we walked to my car. "Free," I said, and realized I meant it. We drove home in comfortable silence, the afternoon sun streaming through the windows of my Audi. Our Audi now, I supposed. Ashley had been living with me for 3 months, and it was starting to feel permanent in a way that my marriage to Samantha never had. "So, what now?" Ashley asked as we pulled into the driveway. I looked at the house. My house, finally and completely mine. Then I looked at the woman beside me, the woman who'd blown up my marriage and my life and somehow made both things better in the process. Now we live, I said. That evening, we had dinner at the same restaurant where this whole thing had started. Manny's Steakhouse, where Ashley had first made her intentions clear and I'd first decided to stop being the good guy. Any regrets? She asked over dessert, echoing the question she'd asked that first night. I thought about Samantha, probably sitting alone in her new apartment, wondering how her life had gone so wrong so fast. I thought about Chad, his reputation in ruins, his meal ticket gone. I thought about the friends who'd chosen sides, the neighbors who whispered when they thought I couldn't hear, the whole elaborate drama that had consumed the last 6 months of my life. None, I said, and meant it. Ashley smiled, that same predatory expression that had started this whole thing. Good. Because I'm just getting started with you, David Mitchell. We went home to our house, our bed, our life together. The life that had been built on the ruins of my marriage, constructed from betrayal and revenge and the kind of honesty that cuts like a knife. It wasn't the life I'd planned. It was better. 6 months later, I ran into Chad at the grocery store. He was working there, stocking shelves in a uniform that was 2 sizes too small for his gym-enhanced physique. His tan had faded, his confidence was gone, and he looked like what he'd always been underneath the muscles and the swagger, just another guy with limited options and poor judgment. He saw me coming and tried to duck down aisle 7, but I caught up with him near the cereal. "Chad," I said pleasantly, "how's life treating you?" He mumbled something about being fine, clearly wanting this conversation to end. "Good to hear. Oh, and Chad, thanks again, for everything." I left him standing there, surrounded by boxes of cornflakes and the wreckage of his own bad choices. That night, I told Ashley about the encounter. She laughed, that musical sound that had become the soundtrack to my new life. "You're terrible," she said. "I learned from the best." We were sitting on our deck, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. The neighborhood was quiet, peaceful, full of families living their ordinary lives behind their ordinary facades. But I knew better now. I knew that every house held secrets, every marriage had cracks, every perfect life was just a story people told themselves to sleep better at night. My phone buzzed. Text message from an unknown number. "I miss you. I miss us. Can we talk? S." I showed the message to Ashley. She read it, then deleted it without comment. "Wrong number," she said. "Must be." We sat in comfortable silence as the sun disappeared behind the trees. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new complications, new opportunities for the kind of honesty that most people couldn't handle. But tonight, we were exactly where we belonged. The perfect revenge isn't about destruction. It's about reconstruction. It's about taking the pieces of your broken life and building something better from the wreckage. It's about learning that sometimes the worst betrayal leads to the best thing that ever happened to you. Samantha had taught me that lesson, though I doubt she'd meant to. She'd shown me what I didn't want, which had led me to what I did want. In trying to have it all, she'd lost everything. In losing everything, I'd found what actually mattered. Ashley reached over and took my hand, her fingers intertwining with mine. Real warmth, real connection, real honesty. Everything my marriage had pretended to be, but never was. "No regrets?" she asked, our ritual question. "None," I said, our ritual answer. And somewhere across town, in a small apartment that smelled like loneliness and bad decisions, my ex-wife was learning the difference between getting what you want and wanting what you get. I couldn't have planned it better if I'd tried.